Let me hit you with this right out the gate. The worst moment of my life didn't happen in private. It happened on a stage, with 3,000 people watching. I'm Grace. I'm 22. And 2 weeks ago I blacked out at my own graduation, not during some random moment, not backstage, not after it was over. No, I collapsed right before my valedictorian speech, the moment I'd worked 4 brutal years for. I remember the heat first. The sun felt like it was pressing straight through my skull. My cap felt too tight. My gown felt heavy, like it was pulling me down. I gripped the podium and told myself, "You've got this. Just breathe." Then the world tilted. The microphone slipped in my hand, the crowd blurred into noise, and the last thing I saw before everything went black was my grandpa's face in the front row, confused, then terrified. I didn't know this then, but that was the moment doctors would later say my brain tumor finally made itself known. When I woke up 3 days later, everything had changed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because the real story, it didn't start on that stage, it started long before graduation, in a house where I learned how to disappear without anyone noticing. 4 weeks before graduation, I was standing in my childhood kitchen watching my mom flip through wedding magazines. Not for me. Never for me. They were all for my older sister, Meredith. She'd just gotten engaged, and suddenly the entire universe revolved around her timeline, her party, her life. "Grace," my mom said without looking up, "can you pick up the custom napkins tomorrow?" Meredith was busy with dress fittings. I was busy with finals. "I have exams, Mom." "You'll manage," she said casually. "You always do?" That sentence. That became my curse. Because when you're the reliable one, people stop checking on you. They assume you don't need help. They assume you don't need attention. They assume you don't need love. For 4 years, I worked 25 hours a week at a coffee shop, kept a 4.0 GPA, and paid for college through scholarships and tips. Meanwhile, my parents paid every single semester of Meredith's tuition. No questions, no conditions. That night I overheard my mom on the phone. "Oh yes, Grace is valedictorian," she laughed. "But honestly, the timing is terrible. Meredith's engagement party is that same week. That takes priority." Then the line that stuck like a knife, "Grace understands. She's always been so independent." Independent. That's the word people use when they mean forgettable. That's when I called the only person who ever asked how I was actually doing. "My grandpa, Gracie," he said warmly. "I was just thinking about you." And just like that, my chest finally loosened. Because someone saw me. And I had no idea he'd be the only one who would show up when everything fell apart. Here's the part nobody tells you about being the strong one. You don't get sympathy. You don't get backup. You don't even get asked if you're okay. You just get used. 1 week before graduation, I was running on 4 hours of sleep, caffeine, and pure stubbornness. Finals were done. My thesis was submitted. And I'd picked up extra shifts at the coffee shop, because rent doesn't care that you're valedictorian. My head had been pounding for 3 straight days, not a normal headache, not a stress headache, the kind that sits behind your eyes and pulses like a warning siren. I told myself, "It's fine. It's always fine." That's what you say when you've been trained not to complain. Then my phone rang. "Mom, I need you home this weekend," she said. "Meredith's engagement party is Saturday. I need help setting up. I'm working," I said, wiping down tables after closing. "Call in sick." I froze. There it was again. What about what I need? I didn't say it. I never did. "Fine," I said. "I'll be there." The second I hung up, the room tilted. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. "You okay?" my coworker Jamie asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." That night, I had a nosebleed that wouldn't stop. 15 minutes. 20. Blood dripping into the sink while I stared at myself in the mirror, telling my reflection not to be dramatic. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. "Meredith, don't forget the custom napkins. And wear something nice. Tyler's parents will be there." Not "thank you." Not "how are you." Just orders. Then Dad texted, "Can you pick up Aunt Carol from the airport Friday? Your mom and I are busy with Meredith's party prep." I pulled over to the side of the road. My hands were shaking, and for the first time, I couldn't tell if it was anger or fear. That's when Rachel showed up at my apartment with Thai food and zero patience for my excuses. "You look like death," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Whoa, love you too." She didn't laugh. "Grace," she said, arms crossed. "When's the last time you actually slept?" "I sleep." "Liar. Jamie told me you almost passed out at work." "It's just finals stress." "No," she said gently. "It's family stress. And it's eating you alive." "They'll come to graduation," I said automatically. Rachel looked at me like I just said the sky was green. "Baby, in 4 years, they haven't shown up to a single award ceremony. Not one." She leaned forward, took my hands. "You don't have to keep setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. They're not even looking at the flame." That night, my vision doubled while brushing my teeth. I gripped the sink as pain exploded behind my left eye. I should see a doctor, I thought. But instead, I swallowed more ibuprofen. Because the engagement party was tomorrow. And I'd been taught that my pain always comes last. The engagement party looked like something straight out of a Pinterest board. White lights wrapped around the oak trees. A 3-tier cake that probably cost more than my monthly rent. 40 guests in cocktail dresses, laughing like life was perfect. I'd been on my feet for 6 straight hours. Setting up chairs. Refilling champagne. Fixing centerpieces. Playing the role I was born into. The invisible support system. No one asked if I was tired. No one asked if I felt okay. Because I was doing my job. "Grace!" More champagne over here. Mom waved from across the lawn like I was hired help. I grabbed another bottle. My head was pounding so hard it felt like my heartbeat was trying to escape my skull. "Smile," I told myself. "Just smile." Meredith was holding court near the fountain, 3 glasses of champagne deep, glowing under the string lights. Tyler's arm was around her waist like a trophy. "Oh, everyone." She laughed loudly, pulling me into the group. "This is my little sister." A few polite smiles, scattered claps. "Grace does everything around here?" Meredith continued. "Honestly, I don't know what we'd do without her." That sentence sounds like praise. Until you hear the tone. Then she leaned in just enough for people to hear. "She's going to be a teacher," she said, smirking. "You know, wiping noses for a living." Laughter. Light, dismissive, cruel. My face stayed frozen in a smile so tight it hurt. "Oh. And she's graduating next week," Meredith added like an afterthought. "Some veil something." "Valedictorian," I said quietly. "Right." She waved her hand. "She's always been the smart one, but smart doesn't buy Louis Vuitton, right?" More laughter. Something cracked inside my chest, but I didn't let it show. I excused myself to the kitchen, leaned against the counter, and tried to breathe through the pain screaming behind my eyes. That's when I noticed someone watching through the window. An older man. Mr. Patterson, one of my grandpa's former colleagues. His expression wasn't amused. It wasn't entertained. It was concerned. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Your grandfather should know how your family treats you." I looked up. Mr. Patterson raised his glass slightly toward me. Then turned away. My hand started shaking, and for the first time, I knew. This wasn't just emotional anymore. After the party, I was alone in the kitchen, elbow deep in dishes while everyone else laughed over engagement photos. Mom walked in, glowing with wine and satisfaction. "Grace, I have wonderful news." I didn't turn around. "What?" "We're going to Paris," she said brightly. "The whole family. Tyler's treating us to celebrate the engagement." My hands stopped moving. "When?" I asked slowly. "Next weekend. Friday night flight. Graduation was Saturday morning." I turned around. "Mom, my graduation is Saturday." She waved it off. "I know, sweetie, but the flights were already booked." "You're missing my graduation," I said. "Don't say it like that," she frowned. "It's for your sister." "I'm the valedictorian," I whispered. "I have to give a speech." "And you'll be wonderful," she said lightly. "You don't need us there. You've always been so self-sufficient." That word again. Dad appeared in the doorway like he'd been summoned. "Meredith needs family support right now," he said, avoiding my eyes. "And I don't," I asked. "You're strong," he replied. "You don't need us the way she does." The room tilted. I grabbed the counter as pain detonated behind my eye. "I need to go," I said, and I left, before they could see me break. That night, I cried alone in my apartment until I couldn't breathe, and 3 days later I would step onto a stage in front of 3,000 people. Already falling apart. 3 days before graduation, I couldn't get off the floor. Not metaphorically. Literally. I was lying on my apartment carpet staring at a water stain on the ceiling shaped like a cracked heart, thinking, so this is what burnout feels like. Rachel's voice came through my phone on speaker. "They're really skipping your graduation," she said, "for a vacation. It's for Meredith's engagement." I replied automatically. "Grace," she snapped, "stop protecting people who won't protect you." I closed my eyes. "I'm just accepting reality." "That's worse," she said quietly. There was a pause. "Okay, real question. How do you actually feel? Physically?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Grace, I'm just tired." That night, at 3:07 a.m., I woke up screaming. The pain was unreal, like someone had driven a spike straight through my skull. I stumbled to the bathroom, barely making it before blood poured from my nose. Not a trickle. A flood. I sat on the cold tile floor with my head tilted back, waiting for it to stop. 15 minutes. 20. When it finally slowed, I looked at myself in the mirror. Hollow cheeks. Dark circles. Skin so pale I barely recognized myself. I should see a doctor, I thought, but graduation was in 3 days. And I had a speech to memorize. I texted Rachel I'm fine. Going back to sleep. Then I opened my photos and scrolled until I found the picture. Grandpa and me. Last Christmas. He was the only one standing next to me. The only one looking at the camera. Rachel's words echoed in my head. "If anything happens, call your grandpa. He's the only one who actually cares." I saved his number as my second emergency contact, just in case. Graduation morning came too fast. I woke up with my head pounding and a text from Mom. "Just landed in Paris! Have a great graduation, sweetie. So proud of you." Attached was a selfie. My entire family at the airport, smiling, relaxed, carefree. I didn't reply. Rachel picked me up at 9 a.m. She took one look at me and frowned. "Grace, you're gray." "Like actually gray?" "I'm nervous." "No. This is not nerves." She forced me to eat half a granola bar. I managed 3 bites before my stomach rebelled. The campus was buzzing. Families everywhere. Balloons. Flowers. Proud parents taking photos. I tried not to look. In the staging area, I checked my emergency contact form from freshman year. Mom, Dad. On impulse, I added a third name. Howard Donovan. Grandfather. I don't know why. It just felt right. Then I saw him. Front row. Already seated. Already waiting. He waved, smiling. In his hands, a manila envelope. For the first time all week, I could breathe. "Grace Donovan," a stage manager said. "You're up in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I could do this." I walked onto the stage. The sun was brutal. My gown felt like an oven. The applause roared. And now our valedictorian, Grace Donovan. I found Grandpa in the crowd. Found Rachel beside him. 2 empty seats next to them. Reserved for family. I gripped the microphone. "I stand here today not just because of grades," I began, "but because of the people who believed in mid." The world tilted. My vision tunneled. The microphone slipped. Pain exploded behind my eyes, white, blinding. I saw Grandpa's face change from pride to terror. I saw Rachel stand up screaming my name, and then, nothing. I don't remember the ambulance. I don't remember the sirens, the oxygen mask, or the frantic voices shouting my name. All of that came later, through Rachel's voice, cracked and shaking, when she finally told me what happened after I hit the stage. The ambulance took 14 minutes. 14 minutes where my body lay unconscious while doctors rushed to keep me alive. At the hospital, they didn't waste time. CT scan, MRI, another scan. Rachel said she could tell something was wrong by the way the doctors stopped explaining things and started moving fast. Then the neurosurgeon came into the waiting room. "There's a mass," he said. "A brain tumor. It's pressing on her frontal lobe." Grandpa gripped the arms of his chair. "We need to operate immediately." The doctor continued. "Within the hour." Rachel's voice broke. "Right now?" "Yes." Rachel grabbed my phone and started dialing. "Mom." Voicemail. "Dad." Voicemail. "Again. Again? Please?" Rachel begged into the phone. Grace collapsed at graduation. She has a brain tumor. Call us back. Nothing. Grandpa tried next. He called my dad directly. Dad answered on the fifth ring. Dad, Grandpa said, voice shaking. Grace collapsed. She has a brain tumor. She needs emergency surgery. Silence. Then my dad's voice. Calm. Too calm. We're at the airport, about to board. Grandpa closed his eyes. Can you handle things? Dad continued. We'll call when we land. Rachel said. Grandpa went completely still. Your daughter is about to have brain surgery. He said slowly. And you're getting on a plane. It's a 12-hour flight. Dad replied. By the time we get back, she'll be out of surgery anyway. That's when Grandpa said the words that changed everything. If you get on that plane, he told him, don't bother calling me again. They boarded anyway. All of them. My parents, my sister. 30,000 feet in the air. Choosing Paris over me. Grandpa signed the consent forms. When they wheeled me into surgery, the only people there were my grandfather and my best friend. 3 days later, I woke up. White ceiling. Beeping machines. Grandpa asleep in a chair beside my bed, still wearing the suit from my graduation. Rachel curled up on a cot in the corner, dark circles under her eyes. Grace. She cried when she saw me awake. Oh my God. You had a brain tumor, she said gently. They removed it. You're going to be okay. 3 days unconscious. I reached for my phone. Instagram loaded first. And there it was. A photo of my entire family in front of the Eiffel Tower. Caption. Family trip in Paris. Finally, no stress, no drama. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared. 4 days later, my phone exploded with notifications, missed calls, texts. We need you. Call immediately. Not how are you. Not we're sorry. That's when Grandpa told me the truth. They're not calling because they missed you, he said quietly. They're calling because they just realized what they might lose. 65 missed calls. That was the number on my screen when I finally stopped staring at the ceiling and looked at my phone. 65. Not one voicemail asking if I was alive. Not one text saying I'm sorry. Just this over and over: Dad, we need you. Call immediately. Mom, please have Grace call her father. Meredith, what did you do? Dad is freaking out. I handed the phone to Grandpa. His jaw tightened the way it does when he's trying not to explode. They know, he said. Know what? I asked. He pulled his chair closer to my bed and took my hand. Grace, it's time you knew about your grandmother's gift. I frowned. The envelope you brought to graduation. He nodded. 22 years ago, when you were born, your grandmother and I opened an account in your name. For college. He shook his head. No. This was different. She called it your freedom fund. My stomach dropped. How much? He hesitated. Enough to buy a small house. Or start a business. Or put a down payment on any future you wanted. I felt dizzy. That's life-changing money? Yes, he said quietly. And your parents were never supposed to touch it. I swallowed hard. But Dad told me you couldn't help with my tuition. I said. That you could only afford Meredith. Grandpa let out a bitter laugh. That's not what happened. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. A bank statement, 2 withdrawals. Same day, 4 years ago. I gave your parents 2 checks, he said. One for you. One for Meredith. Same amount. My chest tightened. And mine. Grandpa didn't say it. He didn't have to. They spent it? I whispered. He nodded. Kitchen remodel. Designer bags. Vacations. The room felt too small. And this freedom fund? I asked. They didn't know about it. I kept it secret, he said. I knew even back then they treated you differently. Tears burned my eyes, not from sadness. From clarity. That's why they're calling. I said, yes. Grandpa replied. Not because you nearly died. Because they're afraid of losing control. The next afternoon, I heard heels clicking down the hospital hallway before I saw them. Mom burst in first. Grace, baby? She said dramatically. We came as fast as we could. I didn't move. You came 5 days later? I said calmly. Instagram says you were at the Louvre yesterday. Her smile faltered. Dad stood behind her, eyes on the floor. Then Meredith walked in, carrying shopping bags. Shopping bags. Hey, she said casually. You look better than I expected. Rachel stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. I should go, she whispered. No, I said, stay. Then Grandpa walked in. The temperature dropped instantly. You finally found time, he said coldly. That's when Grandpa said the words that changed everything. You didn't come back because you were worried about Grace. You came back because you heard about the money. Silence. Mom's face went pale. And that's when the masks came off. The word money hit the room like a grenade. Mom's lips parted, then pressed together so tightly they turned white. That inheritance belongs to the family, she said finally. No. Grandpa replied calmly. It belongs to Grace. Silence. Then Mom snapped. Oh, you want the truth, she said, voice sharp. Fine. You want to know why things were the way they were. Dad reached for her arm. Pam. She yanked it away. Don't, she said. I've been the villain long enough. She turned to me. You want to know why I've always kept my distance from you, Grace? My heart hammered. Because every time I look at you, she said, voice cracking, I see her. Ooh. I whispered. Eleanor, she spat. Your grandmother. The room froze. She spent 30 years making me feel like I wasn't good enough for her son. Mom continued. Every comment. Every look. Every are you sure about this one? Douglas. Grandpa went very still. And then she died. Mom laughed bitterly. And I thought, finally, I could breathe. She looked straight at me. Then you were born. And you looked exactly like her. I couldn't move. Same eyes, same chin, same face. I was a baby, I said quietly. I know, she shouted, then softer. I know. Rachel stepped forward. That's not her fault. I know. Mom screamed again. But trauma doesn't care about logic. I felt something inside me snap, not anger. Understanding. 22 years of distance suddenly made sense. I spent my whole life thinking I did something wrong. I said slowly. That if I tried harder, you'd love me. Mom collapsed into the chair. I should have protected you. Dad said hoarsely. You didn't. I replied. I sat up straighter despite the pain. For 22 years, I worked myself to exhaustion to earn something I should have had for free. Love. I can't keep being invisible, I said. What do you want? Dad asked. I took a breath. Boundaries. Mom looked up, terrified. Does that mean you're cutting us off? It means, I said evenly, I'm choosing myself. Meredith scoffed. This is selfish. I looked at her. I almost died. You went shopping. She flinched. Then she walked out. Mom cried real tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't erase damage. Grandpa handed me the envelope. This is yours. I held it, and didn't open it. I'm not sharing it, I said calmly. Not for weddings. Not for guilt. Dad nodded slowly. I failed you, he said. Can I try to do better? Call me next week, I said. And ask how I am, he promised. And this time, I believed him. 2 weeks after I left the hospital, the world felt different. Not dramatic. Not cinematic, just quieter. The kind of quiet that forces you to hear your own thoughts for the first time. The doctors called it a miracle. Benign tumor. Caught just in time. I called it a second chance. I didn't move back home. Instead, I used a small portion of my grandmother's gift to rent a tiny apartment near the middle school where I'd accepted my first teaching job. 1 bedroom, 1 cramped kitchen, a single window facing a parking lot. It was perfect. Because it was mine, Rachel helped me move in, which mostly meant she criticized my furniture choices while eating my snacks. You're really doing it, she said, leaning against the counter. You're free. That word hit harder than I expected. Free. The fallout started almost immediately. Meredith blocked me on every platform. A week later, Rachel called me laughing. You're not gonna believe this, she said. Tyler's reconsidering the engagement. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. Mom texted me soon after. Meredith is devastated. I hope you're happy. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, I'm not responsible for pain I didn't cause. She didn't reply. Dad did though. Every Tuesday. Awkward calls. Long pauses. Small questions. What did you eat today? How's work? How are you really? It wasn't perfect. But it was effort. 3 months later, I stood in my very own classroom arranging desks. 26 chairs, 26 lives. A bulletin board that read "Every voice matters." Grandpa came to dinner every Sunday. One night, he brought a letter. "She wrote this before you were born," he said. "Your grandmother." My hands shook as I held it. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known. And for the first time, I felt her, not as a shadow, but as a shield. 6 months after graduation, life had a rhythm. School bells, lesson plans, homework stacked too high. I was busy helping kids find their voices while learning how to use mine. Then one night, my phone rang. "Meredith." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Then I answered. "Grace," she said. Her voice was smaller. "Can we talk?" "I'm listening." "Tyler left," she said quickly. "For real this time." I didn't say anything. His family didn't want to be connected to people who abandon someone in a hospital, she added bitterly. Still silent. "I'm in debt," she whispered. "Credit cards. I thought he'd help. He didn't." Then the words I never expected. "I don't know what to do." "Why are you calling me?" I asked. "Because you're the only one who doesn't want something from me." She broke down. "Mom and Dad are furious. My friends disappeared. And she cried, real crying, not performative. I closed my eyes. "Meredith," I said carefully, "I'm sorry you're hurting. But I can't save you." "I know," she said. "I just wanted you to know I see it now." There it was. Recognition. "I was awful to you," she whispered. "I never had to try. Everything was handed to me. And I hated you for how strong you were." I let that land. "Can we ever be okay?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to see." 2 weeks later, I sat in an auditorium watching Grandpa walk onto a stage. Community Educator of the Year. He found me in the crowd and smiled. 2 years ago, he told the room, my granddaughter nearly died, and she taught me something important. Real family is who shows up. I cried. Rachel cried. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. 2 years after graduation, I was sitting in a packed auditorium when my phone buzzed. "Grandpa." I'm walking on stage. I looked up just in time to see him step into the spotlight. 80 years old. Standing tall. A banner behind him read Community Educator of the Year. The crowd applauded as he adjusted the microphone. He scanned the room. Then his eyes found mine, and he smiled. "I want to dedicate this award," he said, voice steady, "to my granddaughter, Grace." My breath caught. 2 years ago, I watched her collapse on stage at her graduation, he continued. She had a brain tumor. She nearly died. The room went silent. She woke up to find that the people who should have been there weren't. I felt Rachel's hand squeeze mine, but instead of becoming bitter, Grandpa said, his voice cracking, "She chose something harder. She chose herself." Tears streamed down my face. "She's a teacher now," he said proudly. "She shows kids every day that their voices matter. That they matter." He raised the award slightly. "This belongs to you, sweetheart." In that moment, something inside me finally healed. Not because my family changed overnight, but because I did. Life didn't magically become perfect. Dad still calls every Tuesday awkward, careful, trying. Mom sends cards on holidays now, polite, distant. Meredith is in therapy. We text sometimes, slowly. But my real family, they're the ones who showed up: Rachel, Grandpa, my students, and finally me. One afternoon after the last bell rang, one of my quietest students lingered at my desk. "Miss Donovan," he asked softly, "did you ever feel like no one saw you?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said, "for a long time." "What did you do?" I thought for a moment, then smiled. "I stopped trying to earn love from people who weren't willing to give it." He nodded like that answer mattered. Because it did. Here's what I learned. And if you've ever felt invisible, I hope you hear this. You cannot earn love from people who refuse to give it. Stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm, especially when they won't even look at the flame. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up when it counts, and choosing yourself, that's not selfish, that's survival. If you've ever been the forgotten one, the reliable one, the one who gives and gets nothing back, I see you. And if this story meant something to you, leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story. You're not invisible here.